Welcome, fellow bookworms, to TBR's Den. My name is Whitney, and today we have Once Upon a TBR Hunny Jar, round 31, which is going to be picking my November TBR. Now, this is the last round of the game for the year. I will be bringing it back next year, but I'm kind of debating on how that's going to look. And so we'll just have to see. I don't have any hard and fast thoughts yet. I'm just thinking about playing around with it a bit, but that's for next year. Right now, this is the last round that we will be playing for this year because, of course, in December I do my 24 days of Bookmas where I unwrap different books and I read them for the 24 days leading up to Christmas. So very excited about that. I do have a stack over there that I'm hoping to get on to this TBR. Now, when I'm filming this, we're a week into October, and it's not looking good for my October TBR. And I have a lot of series that I'm trying to wrap up in the next couple months. So what I will put on the book that I'm hoping to get to in November, if for some reason I don't get to the book previous to that book in the series, I will be swapping those out. Obviously, I'm not going to read the series out of order. So, for example, I have the last two books in the Divider series. So if I don't get to book 3, and I put book 4 on my TBR, I'll just read book 3 instead. Kind of that's gonna be how it goes. But I still want to play my game, and I'm really excited to see what I get. And so I'm gonna go ahead and get the game board set up, get you guys over there, and so we can see what prompts I'm working with, and then we can pick our books. Anything else, I will just talk about at the end. Any books that I don't get on that I still would like to read. Things like that I will talk about at the end once I have my book pick. So I'll be right back with gameplay. All right, so I do still have one reward token, so that allows me to forego a Hunny Jar prompt if I so choose. We also, just a reminder, the genre color, I'm not doing that this year. I'm not like using it as a hard and fast rule because there were so many priority reads. So if I can find a book that fits the Hunny Jar prompt but doesn't necessarily fit genre, I'm not doing that. But just a reminder, I do try to go for a sci-fi if it's blue, yellow is historical, green is fantasy, red is romance, orange is mystery, thriller, or horror. Purple is a completely free pick this year, so no genre and no Hunny Jar prompt. And then if I land on a black, I move forward 3 spaces and use that genre, and then I do have to pull 2 Hunny Jar prompt as well. We are going to roll for our character first. So 1 is Christopher Robin, which is a coming of age or middle grade. 2 is Pooh Bear, which is a classic or comfort read. 3 is Piglet, which is an auto by author or reread. 4 is Rabbit, which is a free choice. 5 is Owl, which is a memoir, biography, or any type of nonfiction. 6 is Tigger, which is a lighthearted or fast-paced read. 7 is Eeyore, which is literary or dystopian. 8 is Kanga and Roo, which is a manga, graphic novel, or children's. Now, we did get Kanga and Roo last month, so if we roll that, I do have the choice to re-roll. So let's go ahead and see what we get here. Okay, so that is a 6, which is... Oh, nice. I don't think we've gotten Tigger yet. So Tigger is a lighthearted or fast-paced read. Let me set up the board and I'll be right back. All right, first pull. Okay, starting off with a purple, which is perfect. That is a completely free pick. Just a reminder, I do move 2 squares for each color other than purple or black. So yeah, that's going to be a completely free pick. All right, let's see what we get next. All right, we have a yellow. So we go 1 and 2. That's a really big move. We love that. So I will try for a historical, but it does just need to fulfill the prompt of this one's jumping out. Okay, so This is the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and it's Church Sanctuary. That was a nice big move. I'm very happy. Let's keep up this energy. I like it. Let's do this one. All right, so we have a blue, which goes 1 and 2. So try for a sci-fi, but again, it just needs to fulfill the prompt of this one. Okay, so probably not a sci-fi. It needs to be a genie or a djinn. It's Aladdin. So what we get next? Ooh, we got a black. What you like? So we go here, and then 1, 2, 3. So that's yellow, and we do need to pull 2 prompts. If I can choose one book that fits both, that's fine. Otherwise, I do need to choose 2 separate books. We'll do this one. Okay, that one's too easy. We got, come on, rabbit is a free choice. So then it just needs to fulfill the prompt of this one. Okay, this is gonna be real nice. It just, come on. Struggling. Chapter titles. Game is being nice so far, knock on wood. Let's see what we get here. Okay, we have a red, which goes 1 and 2. We didn't technically cross the bridge, but we still ended up in the same spot. So try for a romance that fulfills the prompt of, okay. Come on. On the Run or Runaway. This is The Lion King. Mm-hmm. Next we get orange. So we go 1 and 2, and that just says rabbit to next red, which we're not playing rabbit, so it doesn't count. So mystery, thriller, or horror that fulfills the prompt of, let's see this one. Okay. It needs to have, come on, Eeyore with mental health rep. Next up, we'll get, oh, we got 2. Let me redo that. Okay, a green. So 1 and 2. So that's fantasy. That fulfills the prompt of, oh, okay. Come on. This is the Swan Princess, and it's Moonlit Lake. All right, getting closer to the end. See what we got? This one? Okay, we got another green. So we can only move 1 space, which is fine. So another fantasy, or attempted fantasy that fulfills the prompt of, okay. Oh, this is perfect for this, for fantasy. So we have The Lost City of Atlantis, and it's Mythical Cities. All right, so it looks like if we get red, blue, or black, we're done. Yellow, purple, or orange, we can move, and green just goes off to the side. So let's see what we're getting here. Okay, that goes off to the side. Green. Okay, and then we get a red. So go 1, 2, and that brings us to the North Pole. So we are done, and we had 1 unusable disc. And so the North Pole, genre doesn't matter, special square. Let's go ahead and do this one. Okay, so we got Moana, Sailing or Voyaging. I'm going to get my books picked out, and I will be right back. All right, so I am back. I have my books picked out, which, surprisingly enough, I was able to get every single book I already had on my projected TBR to fit the game. So November is looking to be a great month. I'm hoping, since November is so manageable, any books, especially the series one I'm not able to get to in October, I can read in November as well. But we'll just have to see how the October and November play out. I'm not entirely sure how it goes. I'm hoping to feel a little bit more focused and a little bit more into reading soon, but I'm not pushing myself. And so yeah, let's go ahead and show you what we got. So first up, of course, we rolled Tigger, which we've never rolled Tigger. So I was very excited to get him because his prompt is to read either a fast-paced or light-hearted book, which I think this one's more the light-hearted, but it is pretty fast-paced, the ones I've read from this author. And so I went with the final book in the Love Light Farms series, and that's Business Casual by BK Borison. I've been reading these seasonally, and so this is for the autumn season. And this one is Nova and Charlie. So if you've read the series, you know those characters. But it says two opposites decide to test their chemistry with one steamy night together, but will once be enough? Nova Porter isn't looking for love, and she certainly has no explanation for her attraction to button up, three-piece suit wearing investment banker Charlie Milford. Maybe it's his charm, or maybe it's his determination to help her fledgling business however he can. Either way, she's distracted every time he's around. With her new tattoo studio set to open in her hometown of Inglewild, she doesn't have time for frivolous flirtations. In an effort to get Charlie out of her system for once and for all, Nova offers a proposition. One night, no strings. They'll kick their uncomfortable attraction to the curb and return to their respective responsibilities. But their explosive night together scatters their expectations like fallen leaves. And with Charlie in town as the temporary head of Lovelight Farms, Nova can't quite avoid him. And Charlie? Well, Charlie knows a good investment when he sees one. He's hoping he can convince Nova he's worth some of her time. So I've loved the rest of the Love Light Farm series. Book 2 was a little bit of a miss for me, but there's something about this author's writer that just really hits the mark for me. It's cozy and like I love the small town. I love the characters and the emotion and such. So I'm excited to wrap this series up. Then we got a purple, which is a completely free choice. I'm definitely going to be continuing that on into next year. Just I can choose whatever I want. No genre, no honey jar prompt. And for this one, I went with Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. This is the third book in the Knock 'em Out trilogy, and so I'm hoping to read book 2 in October and then wrap it up with this one. I've read 2 Lucy Score books right now, and I've loved both of them. I read the first one in this series and then the Mr. Fixer Upper, and I'm planning on reading the Mr. Fixer Upper companion book for Christmas. So, but yeah, I'm excited to hopefully, like I said, read book 2 and then get to this one. And this one says Lucien Rollins is a lean, mean, vengeance seeking mogul on a quest to erase his abusive father's mark on the family name. He spends every waking minute pulling strings and building his empire. The more money and power he gains, the safer he feels, except when it comes to one feisty small town librarian. Bonded by an old dark secret from the past and their current mutual disdain, Sloane Walton trusts Lucien about as far as she can throw his designer-suited body. When bickering accidentally turns to foreplay, the flames are fanned, and it's impossible to put him out again. But with Sloane more than ready to start a family, and Lucien refusing to even consider the idea of marriage and kids, these enemies to lovers are stuck at an impasse. Until Lucien learns the hard way that leaving Sloane is impossible, the very least he can do is keep her safe. So, yeah, I love the first book in the series. I'm assuming I'm going to really enjoy the second one, and I'm hoping I love this one as well. So there is that. Then we got Yellow, which is a historical, and I was able to find one that fits that genre. And we also got the not really wanting to focus very much. But it's the Hunchback of Notre Dame and its church sanctuary. You got a new setup, and with the way the light is, I'll have to adjust things. Anyway, and for this one, I'm going with it's my pick for Genreathon, which is, if you don't know, Genreathon is my readathon. This is the last year I'm doing it, but it was a year-long readathon, and I basically just focus on different genre adjacent or genre adjacent prompts. And for November is to either read Native American literature, so it doesn't necessarily have to be by a Native American author, but it just has to be about Native Americans or have Native Americans in the story, or to read an own voices book that is written by a Native American author. And for this one, I'm going with The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This is actually our pick for my family book club as well. And yeah, I've read 2 Stephen Graham Jones, and I just don't quite know my thoughts on this author. But this one I'm very, very intrigued by, and I'm excited to read it. And it says, this chilling historical novel is set in the nascent days of the state of Montana, following a Blackfeet Indian named Goodstab as he haunts the fields of the Blackfeet Nation looking for justice. It begins when a diary written in 1912 by a Lutheran pastor is discovered within a wall in 2012. What is unveiled is a slow massacre, a nearly forgotten chain of events that goes back to 217 Blackfeet dead in the snow, told in the transcribed interviews with Goodstab, who shares the narrative of his peculiar and unnaturally long life over a series of confessional visits. So you have the Lutheran pastor and the confessional visits, so that's what I'm linking to the church. And then this is an American Indian revenge story captured in the vivid voices of the time by one of the new masters of literary horror. So I'm excited to give that a go for sure. And then let's see here. This one was kind of weird because we got Blue, which is typically sci-fi, but there's no way. I don't think I could have made that work. And so we had Aladdin, and it's, let's see if I can kind of block that glare. Maybe it'll help. Is Genie or that's not gonna work. Anyway, it's Genie or Jin. I think you can read that even though it's not quite focused. And so for this one, I'm kind of being a little loose with this. I do have 2 books I recently hauled used that would have worked really well for this, but I was trying to get my priority reads on. So I'm going to go with Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I actually read my first Silvia Moreno-Garcia in September, so I'm excited to give another book a go. And so this one, it says, a young woman and a Mayan death god embark on a life-changing journey in this one-of-a-kind fairy tale inspired by Mexican folklore. The Jazz Age is a time of daring dances and fast music, but not for Cassiopeia Tun. She is stuck in her dusty small town performing menial chores until the day when she opens a curious wooden box and accidentally frees an imprisoned deity. And so that imprisoned deity opening a box, like that's what I'm linking to a genie. And then, in the company of the strangely alluring god and armed only with her wits, Cassiopeia begins an adventure replete with malicious ghosts, shape-changing sorcerers, and powerful magic. Her cross-country odyssey will take her from the jungles of the Yucatan to the bright lights of Mexico City and deep into the darkness of the Mayan underworld. So, very, very excited about that one. And then let's see here. I don't know where I'm at. So then we got a black, which is to move forward 3 spaces, and I do have to pull 2 honey jar prompts. We landed on yellow as the next space. And I did get a book that fits for the historical prompt. And so first we pulled Rabbit, which is a free choice, which is fantastic. That goes really well. Obviously, I can make it work with whatever other prompt we got. And we also got Bookworm chapter titles. So for this one, another series that I'm hoping to complete. I'm hoping to read the second book in October. I went with Winter of the Witch by Katherine Arden. This is the 3rd book in the Winter Night trilogy. And we do have chapter titles. This is the Golden Bridle, so that's perfect. And it is it's like a historical fantasy. So in this one, you have a lot of like Russian folklore influence. I'm not going to read the synopsis of this one. Romances are easy to read the synopsis even if it's later in the series, but this one you're actually following a plot line. But basically, we're following Vasilisa, and she's kind of expected to marry and be a good wife and everything like that, but she doesn't want to do that. She's a little bit of a wild child. And her father in the first one ends up marrying this woman, and the whole this village, like her father, is the head, and then you have the people that live there and are working under him. But basically they worship old gods, and the god leave offerings to the hearth god or whatever. And her stepmother is very religious, and like we follow the new religion and such, and kind of shuts that down. Well, that kind of unleashes this darker evil, and it has like the winter uh or the Frost King, which is really cool in there as well. That plays a part. So there's like folklore elements and such, and I just really adored the first book, and I'm assuming I'm going to love the second book, and I'm looking forward to reading this as well. So there's that one. Then we got a red, which is romance, and we got Nala and Simba, so the Lion King is on the run or like a runaway. And for this one, there is romance in here, but it's not a romance. It's again like historical fantasy type. And I'm going to be reading The King of Crows by Libba Bray. This is the fourth and last book in the Diviner series. Again, I still need to read book 3. Hopefully in October I'll get that done. But we'll just have to see when I'm filming this. It's just the first week in October, so I haven't read the books yet, but I'm hoping I can get this series wrapped up as well. And this one, basically, you have the diviners, and it's like 1920s jazz age, and each one's following kind of a different, or the first two anyway, we're following like a different focus. Like in the first one, we're really focused more on Evie, and she can touch objects and get glimpses. And her uncle runs like a museum for like the macabre and such. And there's like these deaths that are happening. In the second one, there was like a sleeping sickness and whatnot. But underneath it all, there's like this rising evil, and the diviners are kind of having to come together to take out this evil. So that's kind of basically the premise. These are chunky, but like I said, the first two didn't quite hit that great for me, but I am really like the vibes of the series, and I'm looking forward to wrapping it up. So then we got an orange, which is mystery, thriller, horror, but I'm not going that route. I did completely ignore the genre on this one. And we got Eeyore, which is mental health rep. So for this one, I'm going to be reading. This is another priority read for me, and that's Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. And I've been wanting to read this for a long time. It works for like the last prompt I'm doing for Adventures in Aldea, or A Year in Aldea or whatnot, which I've kind of just completely fallen off the wagon on, but we'll see what happens going forward. I don't remember the prompt. I think it's like a book that you've been putting off or whatnot. So, but yeah, I'm going to be finally reading this one, and it says, I wanted to lose myself in the small town of Pelion, Maine, to forget everything I had left behind, the sound of rain, the blood, the coldness of a gun against my skin. For 6 months, each breath has been a reminder that I survived and my dad didn't. I'm almost safe again. Then the moment I meet Archer Hale, my entire world tilts on its axis and never rights itself again. Until I trespass into a strange, silent, and isolated world, Archer communicates with no one. Yet in his whiskey-colored eyes, something intangible happens between us. There is so much more to him than just his beauty, his presence, or the ways his hands communicate with me, on me. But this town is mired in secrets and betrayals, and Archer is the explosive center of it all. So much passion and so much hurt. But it's in Archer's silence that we might just find what we need to heal and to live. So obviously dealing with like some PTSD and such. So that will work for the mental health aspect, even though it doesn't work for the genre. Then we got a fantasy, and again, I'm completely ignoring this. And we got the Swan Princess, which was a Moonlit Lake But I did have a perfect book, and so even though it does fit the genre. So this year we're really loosely trying to go with the genres, and we're focused more on the prompts. And I'm going to be reading Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This is the third book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. I still need to read book 1 and book 2. Again, very, very hopeful to see what I can do, for October and November. I'm probably just going to kind of combine books as I need to. And this one, you can see there is a lake here, and the whole thing revolves around a lake house, so that's perfect. It says Callahan, I'm the Kane brother everyone gossips about behind closed doors. Trust fund brat, washed up athlete, high functioning alcoholic. No one knows the real me but her, Lana Castillo, my childhood best friend and the only woman I ever loved. When I broke her heart 6 years ago, I promised to never return to Lake Wisteria. I kept my word until my grandfather's will changed everything. To receive my inheritance, I was tasked with spending a summer at the family lake house before selling it. The request was simple in theory until my entire plan blew up on the very first day. Turns out Lana doesn't just live at the house but claims to own it too. Alana, falling in love with Callahan Kane was a mistake. He told me so before destroying my heart and our friendship 6 summers ago. When he promised never to come back, I foolishly believed him. But then Cal showed up again, intending to sell his grandfather's lake house. The biggest flaw in his plan? My name is on the deed. So I'm just really intrigued by this series, and I think I'm really going to enjoy it. So I'm excited about that. Then we got another green, so another fantasy, and this one does fit. And so this one is the Lost City of Atlantis, so it's mythical cities. And for this one, I read this first book in August, and I really loved it. And so I'm going to be going with Celestial Monsters, which is book 2 in the what is it called? The Sunbearer Trial duology. This is by Aiden Thomas. This has really good LGBTQIA plus rep. They're transgender characters in here, among others. So that's really good. But I can't tell you what this one is about. Basically, in the first one, you have uh, what is his name? Oh my goodness, Tio. Goodness, and I think it's every 10 years, I want to say, they have these Sunbearer trials because basically you have these gods, and they had created different. So you have the golds, the jades, and the obsidians, but the obsidians were basically evil, and so the god Soul ends up, in order to destroy himself, he kills himself, and then he traps them in the heavens. But every 10 years they have to all right, sorry, cough snuck up on me. So every 10 years they have to like revive the soul stones, which is what's keeping the obsidians trapped. And so they compete in these trials, and the winner has to sacrifice the loser, and the loser's blood is what revives the soul stones, and then the winner takes them around to the different territories and whatnot. And so that's what we're following. And it's always generally golds who are in the Sunbearer trials. But in the first book, we end up with 2 Jades this time, Tio and another Jade, which is rare. And the golds in this world are trained for these trials. Like they go to school and they train specifically for these trials where the Jades don't get that training. And so generally the Jades are the ones that lose and end up being the sacrifice if they are in the trials. And yeah, I had a great time with the first book. There was a little bit of issues, like inconsistencies. It needed to be revised and whatnot, but overall I really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to completing that duology. So there's that one. Then let's see here. We had one unusable disc, which we'll come back to that. And so we couldn't move, so we pulled again, and we got a red, which got us to the North Pole, our goal. And for this one, we got Moana, which is sailing or voyaging, which is a fun one. And so for this, I chose the third book in the Between Earth and Sky, and this is Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. I read the first book and like I wasn't even halfway through, and I was like, I need the other two. I'm supposed to still read Fever Star in October, and then I'm hoping to wrap up with Mirrored Heavens. The world's complex enough. I don't want to go a long time between reading these books, but basically, and I don't know how much sailing's going to be in this one, but there's a lot of sailing in the first book. You're following different perspectives, but you have this world, and you have like the priest, and they're supposed to have like some magical abilities, but they really don't. And then you have the different territories, um, and again, kind of political strife is arising, and you have these crows, and they were basically slaughtered at one point. And so they've been trying to kind of come back from that. And then across the seas, you have Zyala and what was his name? Serapio. And Serapio is blind and scarred, and Zyala is tasked with getting him to the city, I think it's Tova, before the convergence, which is a solar eclipse, basically. And so she's tasked with getting him to the city, but she has like some water element things along with his powers, which have to do with like crows. I mean, he's blind, but he can use the crows to see and such. So there's kind of like, there's not like overtly magical, but there are magical elements which are really cool. The political and the religious um, strife and everything was really like, I just absolutely drew me in, and I'm really looking forward to continuing and wrapping up the series fairly soon. So, lastly, we have our one unusable disc. So the book just has to do with the number one in some way. And so I'm going with a standalone, and this is the last book from my like priority reads. Archer's Voice was like for Aldia, so it was a priority in that sense. But I also had a set of books that I just wanted to read this year and get read because they've just been sitting there and I hadn't got them read. Go that way. The dogs are milling about. They're gonna knock stuff over. I kind of have to figure out my setup now that I've changed stuff around. And a library tour is coming soon. But anyway, I'm going with Wild Women in the Blues by Denny S. Bryce. This is a priority for me. I was gifted this by Michelle at reading on my breaks. And it's just sitting there, and I felt so bad because I was interested. And she's like, I'll send it to you. And so I was really excited to get it, and I haven't picked it up yet. And this is a standalone, so it works for the one unusable disc, which is what I'm going with. And this one said 1925, Chicago is the jazz capital of the world. So we got 3 jazz age books, which is fun. But it says Chicago is the jazz capital of the world, and the Dreamland Cafe is the ritziest black and tan club in town. Honoree Dalcour is a sharecropper's daughter willing to work hard and dance every night on her way to the top. Dreamland offers a path to the good life, socializing with celebrities like Louis Armstrong and filmmaker Oscar Micheaux. But Chicago is also awash in bootleg whiskey, gambling, and gangsters, and a young woman driven by ambition might risk more than she can stand to lose. 2015, film student Sawyer Hayes arrives at the bedside of 110-year-old Honoree Dalcour, not Della. I don't know why I keep doing that. Dalcour. Still reeling from a devastating loss that has taken him right to the brink, Sawyer has rested all his hope on this frail but formidable woman, and the only living link to the legendary Oscar Micheaux. If he's right, if she can fill in the blanks in his research, perhaps he can complete his thesis and begin a new chapter in his life. But the links Honoree makes are not ones he's expecting. Piece by piece, Honoree reveals her past and her secrets while Sawyer fights tooth and nail to keep his. It's a story of courage and ambition, hot jazz and illicit passions. And as past meets present for Honoree, it's a final chance to be truly heard and seen before it's too late, no matter the cost. So, very intrigued by this one, and I'm excited that I'll finally be getting to it. So, that are the books I'm going to be reading in November. Hopefully, like I said, the series one, we'll just have to see. how I go with October and whether if I don't get to them in October, I can still read both in November. But that is what 11 books, so I should be able to, in theory, whatever I don't get read in October, add on top and still get those read. I'm really hopeful because those were the books I wanted to read this year and get wrapped up this year. So we'll have to see. And then December is my favorite month when we're going to be doing my 24 days of Bookmas. I have a stack of Christmas books. I still need to wrap, but I'm waiting on one last one that is a new release this year. Once it gets here, I'll wrap them all up and have my husband number them so I don't know what order I'll be reading them in. And yeah, I'm so excited for the rest of the year, the books I have to read. I'm hoping I can start feeling a little better so I can get into reading again. But yeah, I'm very, very excited. I would love to know if you've read any of these, if you're interested in reading any of these, or a book you have coming up that you are excited about. I'd love to know that down in the comments below. If you just want to let me know you are here and you're helping to support the channel by commenting, you can always leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji down in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.